Hey everybody, welcome back. I've received a lot of positive feedback regarding my small stream rod comparison over the last several weeks. So what I thought I'd do today is answer a couple questions that came up during the series, as well as provide a summary of the rod specs and my opinion on the rods that were used in those videos. One quick shameless plug: if you do want to get into the Tenkara giveaway, the 1-year anniversary giveaway that I'm doing, I did a video just briefly talking about some of the prizes between lines and a net and a rod as the grand prize, and some flies that I'll tie. You still have time to do it. I want to introduce one new member to the rod family, and that is the new Tanuki Bare Bones Nymphing Pro 360. Very colorful handle, obviously no cork, designed primarily for nymphing, which I do a lot of the time, and it's an 11-foot 8-inch rod, but I'm really looking forward to using this in the near future, so be on the lookout for one of those videos. The first thing I want to do is answer a couple questions that came up. In particular, had to do with the Kurenai rod that I use, which is the HM33R. And the question was, are the sections interchangeable between the different rods? So using the Japanese convention of the tip being number 1, for instance, if I broke section number 3 on this 33, could I use section 3 off of one of the other Kurenai rods that I have, since I have several of them from the 30 up to the 54? And the answer is yes, and they are identical. For each additional length rod, it's just basically a new handle section, and all the parts above it are the same as the other rods. So they are interchangeable. It doesn't affect any casting or performance of the rod. The same is actually true with the Air Stage Fujiryu rod. So if they're of the same flex, obviously, since there's a 5.5 version that I used in the videos, and there's also 6.4 versions, those I wouldn't switch between the two. But if they're the same flex, you can definitely change the sections out, one for one. So interchangeable parts. So if you like a particular rod family or series of rods, if you want a longer one or a shorter one, you have built-in spare parts basically. So yeah, you can still fish whichever rod you want while the repair parts are being shipped to you. One of the other things I get asked a lot is, where can you get some of these rods that I use in my videos? Obviously, with Tenkara Bum retiring, people are looking elsewhere, trying to figure out what they can do if they do want a Japanese domestic rod. There's a couple things. First of all, Tenkara Adventure Outfitters, TAO, and I know Tenkara Rod Company also sell a couple Japanese domestic market rods. So you can go through a US-owned company and get a Japanese rod. So you can also go through Tenkara Ya, and he's he'll do everything he can do to try to get you a rod. I've also got rods from Platt. They're very good to communicate with, as far as you send them an email, and there's a little bit back and forth. They'll check on the rod to see if it's available, and if it is, they'll send you an invoice. If not, they'll cancel your order. But they'll both be willing to keep an eye out for when a rod is available. And some of them, quite frankly, and Chris Stewart told me this, some of them are you can get for a little bit less than what Chris could provide for them, just due to the importing taxes and things like that. There's obviously shipping cost involved, ordering directly from Japan, but there's some other things that aren't included or needed when buying direct. So you may be able to get them when all is said and done for a little bit less than even Chris was offering them. And the last place, which I haven't used personally, but I know several people who have, and that's the Japanese Amazon website. It's a little bit funky navigating. There is some information out there with some links involved, but if you're comfortable using Amazon, it looks very similar. It's just a little bit difficult sometimes with the translation or finding the exact rod that you want. So for the Oni, the best way to do it right now is ordering directly from the Tenkara ONI shop. So very easy to do. I think I bought the Type 2 that I have directly from them. So that's where I would get them. Japanese Amazon, Platt, Tenkara Ya, or Tenkara Oni shop for the Oni rod. So I hope that helps. I get asked that quite a bit. So let's go move on to the summary. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a table that shows all the 4 rods. And just as a refresher, I used, the first video was the Oni Type 3 rod. The next one was the Fujiryu Air Stage Fujiryu 330 in the 5.5 flex. Then I used the Suntech Kurenai Prospec 33, and then the regular Suntech Kurenai HM 33R. So you can see from the video they're all around 11 feet, and I could have used some other 11-foot rods. Just wanted to keep the number of rods down and keep them in the Japanese domestic market just for fun. So they're all around 11 foot, give or take a couple inches. The Oni is just slightly longer at 11.3. The shortest one is the Prospec 33, which is about 10.10. The lightest rod in the comparison is the Suntech Kurenai, and it is 1.1 ounces, so extremely light. The heaviest is the Air Stage Fujiryu, and that comes in at 2.6 ounces. So the other rods are, the Oni is 2.1, and the Prospec 33 is a very light 1.4 ounces. Regarding the penny ratings of the rods, those range from 14 for that Prospec 33, so that Seiru rod, and I've used this as an example before of, even though it's a Seiru rod, you think in general a light rod, but also low penny rating or soft rod, but this is actually the highest penny rating out of those 4 rods. The next is the Oni 3, which is 12, the Fujiryu is 11, and the Kurenai is only 9 pennies. And I mentioned this in the video, and I'll say it again now because it has to do with what the Rod Flex Index value is for the Kurenai. It's 9 pennies, but it is a wicked light and flexible tip. It's very tip flex, so it's very deceiving to say it's only 9 pennies, thinking that it's not a very capable rod. But the Kurenai series as a whole have plenty of backbone. So having that low penny rating, because all the flex is in the tip, it really throws off the Rod Flex Index. When you look at those numbers, it shows as a 2.6, which is just ridiculously slow rod, but it's anything but that. It's very tip flex rod. So don't let that low penny rating fool you. Even the longer rods that I have in the Kurenai family are only 12 pennies, and I can tell you they don't fish like 12 penny rods. So plenty of backbone. Don't let that low penny rating fool you, but the Rod Flex Index value will fool you because just the math involved. It's a highly tip flex rod. So as far as the tippet rating goes, the Oni 3 says it's rated for 4X. I personally don't use 4X with that rod. It isn't, it's certainly not a big fish rod. I don't go anything stronger usually on most of my rods, unless they're rated for it and they're big fish rods, more than 5X. That's what I typically use, and 6X is easily done as well, protects it just fine. But the rating on it is 4X. For the Fujiryu, it's 5X rating, and for the Prospec 33, it's a 6X rating, and for the Kurenai, 6.5X. So I always use 7X with that, although I do have some 6.5X tippet that I could use with it as well. So cost of the rods, as you can see, when I looked on the Tenkara ONI website, it translates roughly to $225. The Fujiryu, and the other 3 rods, I got the price off of Tenkara Bum. He doesn't have them all available anymore since he's retiring. He does have a couple of the Kurenai rods, I will say. I think it was the 33, which I used, and the 39. He has a couple left on his website as well. So the Fujiryu was about $180. The Prospec is $185. and the Kurenai HM 33R is actually only $155. So the Kurenai rods are very affordable. None of them are expensive rods by a lot of standards, but they're all 200 give or take a bit, but the Kurenai is only 155 bucks. So with that being said, some of the things that I said during the fishing videos, I mean, let's start with the Oni 3. I just dig the camo handle on these. To me, these are the gold standard, whether it's the Oni 1 for light line or the Oni 3 for small stream rods. These are the gold standard. My hope would be everybody who wants to fish one can get one, or should have one, or at least be able to try one, so you can kind of see what all the hype is about, because they are phenomenal rods. It is 2.1 ounces, like I said, but it feels even lighter. The Oni 1, for instance, is over 3.1 ounces, but it fishes like it's much, much lighter than that. So in hand, this rod just feels so light, so well balanced. There have been so many accolades about the Oni Type 3, and deservedly so. This is a phenomenal rod. If you want a true Japanese rod designed by a master with a cult following, the Oni 3 is just a fantastic rod. The Air Stage Fujiryu, it is a little bit heavier. Most likely a lot of it has to do with the handle on this, but it also is very well balanced. Even though it's only 1 penny difference between the two, it feels a bit softer or more full flex to me. The aesthetics, and particularly the handle on this thing, I just really, really enjoy it. A lot of the just wood in general, whether it's my long bows and recurve bows, just the traditional aspects of it. I just love the feel of it. Doesn't have a finish on it, but it just feels good in hand. The Prospec 33, I have to say, was really the sleeper of the video, or the comparisons between the four. This rod, in my opinion, I guess I felt most comfortable with it on that particular creek. I'm not saying it's my favorite rod of the bunch, but because in that type of water, a lot of it is shallow, so I'm switching back and forth between unweighted kabari and beadhead nymphs. There's a lot of heavier pocket water that can be several feet deep, and so I find myself switching around a lot or skipping a lot of spots if I just want to stick with an unweighted fly, for instance. But this rod, to paraphrase what Chris Stewart of Tenkara Bum says, at 1.4 ounces, he doesn't know of any other rod that is 1.4 ounces that is this capable. Any that are that light are typically shorter rods, or they are less capable rods if they're 1.4 ounces. So 14 pennies at 1.4 ounces, it casts much different than any of the other three rods. The Oni and the Air Stage Fujiryu are very full flex rods, super enjoyable, smooth. This is a little bit different. You can feel the stiffness, also because it's a little bit shorter, which is why that rod flex index is what it is, of 4.2 compared to 3.3 and 3.5 for those other two. And again, negating the Kurenai rod flex index, because it's misleading. But this particular rod, I mentioned, it also does not have the Lillian, and obviously without a cork handle, it's a little bit narrower than the other two foam and wood handled rods, but it fits my hand, and it is extremely sensitive, in my opinion. Without the Lillian and with no cork, you just feel every tick of the bottom and every tap, every nibble from the fish. So if I were to only use one of those rods on that particular stream, because of the flexibility between going back, it throws a beadhead better than the other rods, just because of the little bit stiffer. And I use the term stiff. It's not stiff, but relative to the Oni and the Fujiryu, it is a firmer tone. And then on the Kurenai, again, these are highly tip flex, and I mentioned this in the videos. For me, and they are a narrower handle, so anybody with big oven mitts might find these a little bit too small. But again, this non-skid is very, even wet, it's very secure, and it is also very sensitive, even though it has the Lillian. But they just transmit. But the thing with these is they're just so stinking light, and that insanely flexible tip. For me, casting them, out of the ones that I have, the HM30R is the first one that I got, and I liked it so much that I wanted the 33, and I found that I actually liked the 33 even better as far as casting goes. The one thing I have to tell myself is not to overpower it. If you do, you get that flexible tip and you can get some bounce back, and also loosening, softening my grip when I stop the forward cast seems to get a better rollout and more consistent without any spring or overshoot of the tip or bounce back of the lines. But it takes a little bit different casting stroke is what I'm saying. And the Prospec 33, whereas the Oni and the Fujiryu are very soft and very comfortable and smooth, which is what I prefer, I found, again, the Prospec 33, I could go, it felt stiffer, and I could certainly throw a tighter loop and a little quicker casting stroke, which was actually nice for when it kicks up and gets a little bit breezy. So that's kind of my overview of the rods. They're all fantastic rods in their own right. Just a matter of what you prefer, your personal preference, and what your application is. Now, if you press me on, out of those four rods, which is my favorite, I mentioned the Prospec 33 is ideal for that stream in my opinion. But most people, I think, would prefer, in general, the Oni 3. However, for me, as much as I like the Oni 3, the Air Stage Fujiryu, if I only could have one, I would be hard pressed not to pick this. And really the difference is, for me, the handle. I just like the grip, and the aesthetics are a little bit more pleasing to me. But it is just so smooth casting. I think in Teton Tenkara, Tom Davis and Chris Stewart talk about this Chris Stewart talks about it on his website of being kind of underrated. But those are excellent performing rods and just great feel. And as much as I love the Oni 3 and will never give it up, side by side, I have to give the slight edge for the handle, that smooth casting. It just has a different feel to it. I can say it's rich or, smooth, but that doesn't mean much. It's more subjective. So that's my opinion on that. So if you'd like to see some additional rod comparisons and evaluations, let me know what you're interested in down in the comments section. I intend to do some for like tactical nymphing, what's the best, for tight lining that I do quite a bit, or I might do 360 rods, I might do pack rods. I'm just thinking about several things that I can do over the summer that to be able to share some of the differences between rods, since not everybody is as silly as I am in owning this many rods. And if you're looking for one particular rod and you have questions about which one to get, feel free to put it in the comments and I'll try to work that in there somewhere. But thanks for all your support and for supporting the Tenkara companies that I'm affiliated with. Much appreciated, and we'll see you in the next video.